Well, we're here today with Carla Hugo of GetCoach.com, and we're going to talk about an interesting subject that Mike and I just love, reverse roommates.
We love it. We love it. The roommate reversal.
Now, Carla, in your practice, I know you do screen-free parenting, and you work on relationships as well, and a little EFT we'll talk about later. So tell us a little bit about what is reverse roommates?
Reversing roommate syndrome is a concept that I came up with from working with my clients and also working on my own personal life with my wonderful husband. And the idea is that when we're married, and especially when we're married with kids, since this is the real parents, so most of you probably have children.
Yes.
It's almost as if there should be another word for marriage. People that get married and don't have children are married, and then people that get married and do have children, there should be another word besides marriage for that, I think, because It's a whole different dynamic. So what often happens in everyday life is that the priorities of a married couple go to the bottom of the list. And what rises to the top is work, the children, the bills, the yard work, the dogs, everything that's part of family life.
Right.
So,
Okay, so reverse roommates, I can kind of get a feel of where we're going with this. I'm going to guess that, you get together in your marriage, everything's going great, and to begin with the first few years or months in some cases, everything's great, but then eventually the kids and everything, we fall into routine, as Mike and I have many times, where you're basically going along not too different than roommates. The physical connection seems to fade away, and so what could we do about something like that?
Okay, well, the first step is to have awareness. So in any time that we're faced with a challenge, we can either just wallow in what's wrong, or we can actually put some energy into being aware, noticing what we want more of, noticing what we really don't like about the marriage, and what are our deep desires about the marriage. And if you could just eliminate the worry of the bills, of the screaming children, and of the housework that's piling up, and say, deep in my heart, this is what my ideal marriage looks like. Mm-hmm. So to have that awareness and to take note of that, and to do that in the perfect world, as if it's a perfect world, what is it that you truly want in your marriage? So that's the first step, is noticing that.
Okay, so what do you think about that? When did you think you start to notice that with us?
Well, I don't know if it was after we were married. It might have actually been before we were married, because there were times when we first got together. We were friends, we worked together, we did a lot of things together. Her brother used to laugh all the time because we traveled back and forth to Florida, and we told him, Keith, we never even put the radio on.
Yeah,
we shot the breeze, for
awesome.
20 hours, give or take. And it was all about creating a vision. We were dream building, we were talking about our aspirations, and then as our lives progressed, it got to a point where a lot of those other concerns came in. It's like, we got to really get serious in our lives and start thinking about a future.
Careers and kids. Right. I think careers actually were probably a big turning point for us, right? Because we were in the restaurant business for quite a while, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, we're really going to have to get real jobs and start moving forward in that kind of aspect of our life.
Not that for all you restaurant workers out there, it's not a real job. We know it's probably one of the most challenging and rewarding fields in the world.
Yes, of course. But yeah, so that's probably where you think...
Right, and I think it's probably different for every married couple, or a good portion of married couples, or people that are in relationships, because it gets to a certain point where, all of a sudden you lose that glow, and, you're like, okay, the other things take priority. And then you've said many times where, we're just like two ships passing in the night, or we're just like roommates, and roommates that don't even get along a lot of times.
Yeah. So where do you go from there when that starts to occur in a
So
marriage?
that's the awareness part of it, right?
It's
Becoming aware of
noticing,
it.
as opposed to simply calling your friend and complaining about it, right? So putting some heart into it, noticing this is what it used to be or what it could be. This is what I want it to be. And, identifying the problem. Okay. The next step is to appreciate your mate. So no matter how much tension there might be in the relationship because you feel so distant and you don't have that emotional connection that you desire between the two of you, there's always something that you can appreciate about your mate. So if you appreciate that, he takes out the garbage on Tuesdays.
Right.
If it's that unromantic, and if it's that, like
she doesn't appreciate that because garbage day is Mondays.
You missed it when you take it out on Tuesdays. So to really get a list going of what you appreciate about your mate.
Okay.
And as you alluded to before, this is married couples or any type of significant relationship that somebody has, a committed relationship, whether it's married or not.
Right.
So, and it's hard. When you're in the throes of feeling emotionally disconnected with your mate, all you can notice is what's driving you crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you. Especially when you have kids, because the kids are in the background doing whatever they're doing, and your mind's trying to focus on what you're trying to accomplish and maybe settle in your marriage, and then you have all this other activity, like having dogs. People have dogs, and that's the same thing. It takes precedence over what you're doing with yourself. So I guess prioritizing the marriage over. Do you feel that that's what should be done? Marriage should be prioritized before you're worrying about the things you're doing with the children, or how do you feel that that fits?
Textbook-wise, yes, that the marriage needs to come first, because the marriage is the foundation for the family home in this situation if you have children. And of course, in all reality, when the baby wakes up crying in the middle of the night and, these other things are going on, the children sort of creep up there. But to have that awareness, to go back to the first A, and have the awareness of, okay, we notice we're spending a little too much time doting on this child. When's the last time I doted on my mate? Now let's just go back to the second one, appreciation. So tell me, for you two, when you're sort of maybe butting heads or feeling emotionally disconnected, that you are two ships passing in the night, what would that be like for you to notice something particular about one another and state your appreciation for it?
What do you think?
That's an area that we have a challenge, quite frankly, because Sandy's impression of when I try to do things like that,
you get quirky with things, right?
Well, I maybe get a little
You're
corny.
like, oh, look, I'm touching you. Oh, look, I'm like, well,
but not always. Sometimes I overdo it because it kind of, there's still a little bit of underlying things there. But I think what challenges me sometimes is when I do make an attempt to appreciate or do something doting or something along those lines, she has an impression many times that I'm trying to bust her or needle into her or really kind of,
that is
give her the love for
sarcastic,
it.
Right. Yes.
When I'm not saying that it's never that way, because she said a lot of times we have a brother-sister relationship.
Yeah.
And a lot of times there might be a little bit of that sarcasm in there, but many times it may be, I feel, misinterpreted because that's not my intention. I feel, and I think you'd agree in our relationship, that I tend to be more the person that wants that more closeness and that kinesthetic relationship.
He's much more kinesthetic than I am. Yes.
Okay.
So I see that sarcasm because
one thing I would ask you to do, Sandy, or would you be willing to take what Mike says at face value?
That he's not busting my chops, you mean? I would be willing to do that, but I think what this in my mind, what it comes down to is him knowing that I'm not as kinesthetic. If he's trying to help give me what I want, he's giving me what he wants. He wants to be, he wants that kind of touching or tickling and that kind of stuff, where he's giving me what he wants, but I feel like he's aware of that, as opposed to maybe giving me what I would want. Which I like back rubs and stuff, but that's a different kind of touching. It's not the tickling and that kind of thing.
But I don't feel that I do the tickling. I mean, the back rubs and the foot rubs and those types of things. I'm open to doing that kind of thing, but I like reciprocation.
Okay. There's a book called The 5 Love Languages. Have you two heard of that?
No.
Yeah, I can't recall the author right now, but actually on my website, it's on one of my recommended. It's a recommended book on there.
On getcoach.com?
On getcoach.com, under the resources. So the 5 love languages, actually they talk about that we communicate love the way we want to receive it. So for you, you want to receive love in the form of physical touch, so you express love that